Welcome, my dear listeners, to the Moondragon channel. For tonight's topic, we are going to be discussing one of the most lore-filled and interesting game of all time, World of Warcraft. I hope all of you enjoy and have a great night. In the soft hush of twilight, as the stars blinked awake above the distant peaks of Nagrin, there was a whisper in the wind, gentle and warm like an old friend's breath. It wound through the grasslands and circled the great stones of Oshugun, where once the orcs had gathered to remember their past. And among those memories, we begin with one who carried his people's hopes like a lantern in the dark. His name was Thrall. Born Goel, he came into the world in chains. His parents, noble and brave, perished under the shadow of war. The child was taken by cruel hands, raised not among the gentle hills of Draenor, but in the stone walls of an internment camp. Yet within his heart a fire stirred, not one of wrath, but of yearning. A yearning to know who he was and what he could become. As the years passed, Goel learned the ways of combat, but also of wisdom. From books and scrolls he uncovered the old ways, the shamanic paths his people had forgotten. And when he finally broke free, he didn't run from the world. He embraced it. The winds carried him to the Frostwolf clan, deep within the snows of Alterac Valley. There he met Drekthar, a blind shaman who showed him the truth of the elements, the dancing fire, the patient earth, the swift water, and the whispering air. The elements spoke to Goel and he listened. No longer just Goel, he became Thrall. With strength and honor, he united the orcs under a new banner, not one of bloodlust and conquest, but of freedom and balance. He sailed across the sea to Kalimdor, guided by the spirits and dreams, where he founded the city of Orgrimmar in the dusty arms of Durotar. And though battles came, wars with centaurs, with humans, with demons, Thrall always sought peace. He spoke gently, even when his axe was sharp. He built alliances, even when the past cried for vengeance. He was a warrior, a leader, a shaman. But most of all, he was the bridge between what was and what could be. Now, when the wind sings across the cracked red earth of Durotar, the orcs remember. They remember the war chief who walked not ahead, but beside them. Thrall, the world shaper. Far across the sea, where ocean mists curl like fingers of forgotten dreams, there stands the proud city of Boralis. Ships sway in its harbors, gulls cry to the sky, and the air always tastes faintly of salt and sea spray. But long before the Kul Tiran navy rose with such strength, there was a young girl who dreamed not of war, but of peace. Her name was Jaina. Jaina Proudmoore was born to the sea. The daughter of Dalen, Lord Admiral of Kul Tiras, she walked the docks as a child, her eyes bright as polished pearls. But it wasn't ships that called to her. Heart full of wonder, she traveled to Dalaran to study with the greatest mages in Azeroth. She learned quickly, faster than most. Arcane power hummed in her hands like lullabies waiting to be sung. She became close to Arthas, the prince of Lordaeron. Their hearts danced once in quiet corridors and moonlit gardens. But as time flowed forward, like the sea always does, so too did their fates drift apart. When the scourge came, it came like a crashing wave, cold and merciless. Cities fell, people fled, and Jaina had to make a choice. She chose to lead her people across the ocean, to Kalimdor. There, amid dusty canyons and thundering beasts, she forged unlikely friendships. She stood beside Thrall, she stood against demons, she helped save the world at Mount Hyjal, when the night elves, humans, and orcs stood together beneath a sky burning with war. But even heroes carry wounds. When her father followed her across the sea, full of fury and distrust, Jaina begged him to see reason. She pleaded for peace, but the past has a way of clinging like seaweed, and when battle came, she stepped aside, letting her father fall to the blade of his enemies. It broke something in her. For years, Jaina drifted like a lost ship, sometimes a diplomat, sometimes a sorceress, always trying to hold the storm at bay. But peace was a fragile thing. When Dalaran fell under siege, when Theramore was destroyed by Garrosh's Mountabomb, she stood among the ashes of all she had built. The tides had turned, and they did not carry kindness. Grief made her stronger. Grief made her fierce. She returned to Kul Tiras, a daughter long estranged. It was not an easy homecoming. Old ghosts lingered. Her mother's eyes were full of sorrow. But Jaina rose like the sea after stillness, powerful, relentless, deep. And in the end, she became more than just a sorceress. She became the Lord Admiral of Kultiras. The sea bends to her voice now, arcane and tide entwined like moon and wave. And when she sails, her ship cuts through darkness like a promise. Jaina Proudmoore, Lady of the Tides. Still searching, still healing, but never lost. Now, if you listen closely near the cliffs of Stormsong Valley, you may hear a lullaby on the wind. Part sea song, part spell, all memory. That is her magic. And she, the sea's daughter, dreams of peace yet to come. In the ancient kingdom of Lordaeron, where silver banners once fluttered in the breeze, and bells rang out over cobblestone streets, a prince was born beneath soft candlelight and the hush of winter's first snow. His name was Arthas. He was a golden child, tall and proud, with eyes like blue fire and a heart full of dreams. From his earliest days, Arthas was taught the weight of duty. He was to protect his people, to uphold the light, and to one day become king. And oh, how he believed in justice. He trained beneath Uther the Lightbringer, learning to wield both hammer and compassion. He laughed with Jaina in the rose gardens, spoke poetry to her under starlit towers, and whispered of futures filled with peace. But peace, like snow in spring, does not always last. A darkness came, slowly at first, whispers in the east, villagers falling ill, crops withering. It was called the plague, and as it spread, so too did fear. Arthas rode forth to stop it. He burned infected grain, he closed towns, he fought the undead with fury and fire. But always the darkness crept ahead, just out of reach, just beyond control. In Stratholme he made a choice. The city was infected, its people doomed. And so Arthas, with trembling heart and iron will, ordered them all slain. Every last man, woman, and child. He called it mercy, others called it madness. And still the darkness mocked him. He followed it north to Northrend, to the frozen realm where wind howls like a dying choir. There he found a cursed blade buried in the ice, Frostmourne. It shimmered with a promise, the power to save his people. He took it, and in that moment something changed. The blade was not a tool, it was a prison, a whisperer, a thief of souls. It hollowed him slowly, like frost biting into stone. Arthas returned to Lordaeron not as a prince, but as a ghost in armor. He walked into the throne room and embraced his father, with the blade. And so, the king fell, and Arthas became the Lich King's champion. He raised the dead to fight beside him. He silenced the light within his soul. He laid waste to Quel'Thalas. He brought ruin to the lands he once swore to protect. Jaina wept, Uther fell. The sky darkened above him, and still he pressed on. Eventually he climbed the spire of Icecrown, alone, cold, unfeeling. There he placed the helm upon his head, and he vanished. Years passed, heroes rose, and when they reached Icecrown's citadel, they found a king not of golden grace, but of steel and sorrow. He fought with fury, he fell with silence, and in his final moments, as the shadows peeled away, Arthas whispered a question, not of power nor glory. Is it over? There was no triumph, no redemption, only silence. Now, he sleeps beneath the shattered throne, entombed in ice and memory. A warning, a story, a prince who became a monster, a boy who wanted to save the world and lost himself in the trying. Arthas Menethil, the fallen prince. May his soul, if ever found, be gentle. Once in the sun-drenched kingdom of Quel'Thalas, there lived a ranger with eyes like the morning sky and a voice sharp as an arrow's whistle. She was swift, she was proud, and she was fearless. Her name was Sylvanas. She was the middle sister of the noble Windrunner family, between the fiery Ilaria and the gentle Varisa. But Sylvanas was always her own storm. She took to the bow as easily as others to breath, and soon rose to become Ranger General of Silvermoon, sworn protector of the high elven homeland. She danced through forests with her blades, she rode the wind like a hawk. Her people trusted her, the forests loved her, and then came the scourge. Arthas, cold-eyed and merciless, marched through the gates of Quel'Thalas, trailing death like a cloak. Sylvanas stood against him with every arrow she could loose, every ambush she could lead, every inch of defiance her soul could offer. But it was not enough. She fell, and worse than death, Arthas cursed her. He tore her soul from her body, twisted her into a banshee, and bound her to his will. No longer a guardian, just a shade, wailing through the night. But Sylvanas, even broken, was never truly defeated. When the Lich King's grip weakened, she slipped free. She took back her body, her will, her fury, and she vowed vengeance. She gathered the Forsaken, those like her, the undead who still remembered life. She led them to the ruined kingdom of Lordaeron and claimed it as her own, a queen of shadows, a ruler of the forgotten. They called her the Banshee Queen. Some feared her, some followed her, but all who looked upon her knew here was a spirit burned but unbroken. She played the game of power well. She joined the Horde. She fought wars. She made alliances. And always, she planned. But grief does not sleep forever. The torment of undeath, the weight of her choices, the memory of her fall, it hollowed her heart. And when the world stood still after the fall of the burning legion, she looked upon the future and saw only more chains. So she broke them. She shattered the helm of domination. She tore the sky itself asunder, and through the great rift, the veil between life and death, she vanished into the Shadowlands. There, she served a dark master, one who promised control, purpose, and the freedom from pain. And once more, she walked the edge between liberator and tyrant. But in the end, when the chains of the jailer began to bind the souls of all, Sylvanas remembered. She remembered who she was. Not just a queen, not just a banshee, but a sister, a ranger, a soul with choices still her own. She turned on her master. She stood with her old enemies. And for the first time in a long while, she began to make amends. Now she walks the quiet roads of the Maw, seeking the lost, the damned, and the forgotten, guiding them to peace, atoning for the pain she wrought. Sylvanas Windrunner, the Banshee Queen, neither hero nor villain, just a soul still finding her way through the long, dark night. And when the wind whistles through the ghostlands, it carries her name, not as a warning, but a whisper, one of sorrow and of hope. Deep within the ancient forest of Ashenvale, where the trees reach high like dreams and starlight glimmers in every leaf, there dwells a sentinel of grace and strength cloaked in moonlight. Her name is Tyrande. She was born when the world was still young, when the well of eternity shimmered in the heart of Kalimdor, and the Kaldori, the Night Elves, sang to the stars. From her earliest days, Tyrande walked with quiet purpose. Though beautiful and serene, her gaze could steady storms, and her heart burned with fierce devotion. She chose not the path of magic, nor one of nobility, but service. She became a novice in the temple of Elune, the sacred order that worshipped the moon goddess. There, amid gentle prayers and soft candlelight, Tyrande rose swiftly. Her faith was deep, her will unshaken. And when the demons first came, she did not flee. The burning legion descended upon their world in a torrent of fire and shadow, led by the fallen titan Sargeras and their own kin, the once noble Queen Azshara. The forest burned, the sky wept, and Tyrande took up bow and blade to defend her people. She fought beside two brothers, Malfurion, the first druid, and Illidan, the sorcerer whose heart beat wildly only for her. Though they were twins, their paths could not have been more different. Tyrande's love belonged to Malfurion. Together, they stood against the darkness. They sealed the well of eternity. They watched the world sunder and form anew. And when the ashes cleared, Tyrande led her people into the ages that followed. She became High Priestess of Elune. But her path was never without pain. Through long centuries, she watched allies fade into legend. She made hard choices, sometimes the only choices. When Illidan returned, mad with power, yet still craving her love, she spared him. Not out of affection, but out of hope that redemption might bloom, even in a soul so lost. When the Horde trespassed into Ashenvale, she stood firm. When the Legion returned again and again, she bore the weight of battle. When Teldrassil, the great world tree and home of her people, was set ablaze by Sylvanas, Tyranda's heart broke in silence, but she did not weep. She became the Night Warrior, a dark and ancient avatar of Elun's wrath. Her eyes burned with starlight, and the calm priestess became something colder, sharper, vengeance. She walked the Shadowlands with fury in her steps. Her voice echoed through Ardenweald like the mourning cry of a mother who had lost too many children. And yet, even in that darkness, the goddess did not abandon her. For Tyrande is not just wrath, she is also mercy. She chose justice over destruction. Even Sylvanas, the one who lit the tree ablaze, was not simply cast into the void. For Tyrande knew, to end a soul in hatred is to give hate a throne. Now, in the stillness of the moon's gaze, she watches over her people once more, older, wiser, touched by both vengeance and peace. She remains High Priestess. She remains the blade in Elun's hand. She remains a guardian of ancient beauty, of moonlit paths, and quiet strength. Tyrande, Whisperwind, Moon's embrace, a night elf who carries 1,000 years in her voice, and still whispers of hope for tomorrow. And if you sit beneath a full moon in Ashenvale, very still and very quiet, you might feel a warmth upon your shoulder, a touch like moonlight, and know she watches still. In the lush jungles of the Echo Isles where the air is thick with incense and the rhythm of the land pulses like a living drum, there lived a troll with eyes like storm clouds and a heart that burned with quiet fire. His name was Vol'jin. He was born of the Darkspear tribe, a people once small, often scattered, yet strong in spirit. Vol'jin was the son of Sen'jin, a wise witch doctor who saw far into the veil of the spirits. And from his father, Vol'jin inherited not just his title, but a deep connection to the Loa, the ancient, powerful spirits that walk beside the trolls. In his youth, Vol'jin watched his people suffer. The trolls had been cast from their homelands, pushed aside by larger empires and dark magic. But Vol'jin was not bitter. He was patient. He believed in vision. He believed in unity. When his father fell, taken by the sea and the cruel plans of Murlocs and dark forces, Vol'jin stepped forward. He led his people with humility, with thoughtfulness. And when a stranger named Thrall came upon their island, bearing the symbols of the orcs and the voice of the spirits, Vol'jin chose trust. He pledged his loyalty to the Horde, not out of ambition but out of belief that together even scattered peoples could rise. The Darkspear trolls found a home again, and Vol'jin found a brother in Thrall. Together they fought in distant wars and stood side by side against enemies far greater than themselves. Vol'jin's spear struck true, but so too did his wisdom guide the Horde through shadows. But peace is rarely still. When Garrosh Hellscream took command of the Horde, the drums changed, the rhythm grew harsh. The spirit of the Horde became twisted with conquest, and Vol'jin, quiet, faithful Vol'jin, spoke against him. For that, Garrosh tried to have him killed, but the spirits were not done with Vol'jin. He survived, hidden, healing, dreaming, and when the time came, Vol'jin rose with rebels at his side. He fought to reclaim the soul of the Horde, not with blood alone, but with vision, with truth. And when Garrosh fell, Thrall turned to him and named Vol'jin War Chief, the first troll to ever hold the title. The Horde had never known a leader so gentle of voice, so steady of hand. Vol'jin believed in honor. He believed in every tribe, every race, having a place at the fire. But his time was short. In the battle to reclaim the broken shore, Vol'jin was struck by a fell wound, mortal, final. And yet, as he lay dying, the spirits came. Not just the Loa he knew, but something greater, whispers from the Shadowlands. They told him to name Sylvanas Windrunner as his successor. He did not understand, but he obeyed, and then he passed. Vol'jin, lore. But death for Vol'jin was not the end. His spirit lingered. He walked through the lands of the dead seeking answers. He spoke to the Loa, to Bwansamdi, the trickster god of graves. He demanded truth, not for himself but for his people. In time, he became something new, a spirit walker, neither living nor lost, but a guide between worlds. Now, when the Darkspear gather around their fires, they speak his name not with sorrow, but with reverence. His ashes rest among the Echo Isles, but his voice still rises in the smoke. Vol'jin, the spirit walker, a leader not remembered for power, but for wisdom. for vision, for walking paths no one else could see. And if you find yourself on the edge of sleep where dreams begin and spirits stir, listen carefully. You may hear the rustle of feathers and the beat of a drum, low and steady. That is Vol'jin, watching still. In the grand white towers of Stormwind, behind walls carved of stone and duty, a prince was born, with eyes like clear skies and a heart full of wonder. His name was Anduin, named for the great Anduin Lothar, hero of the First War. He was the son of King Varian Rin, a warrior of grim resolve and burning passion. But Anduin was different. He did not dream of glory in battle or the clang of steel. From his earliest days, he listened to the wind in the chapel courtyards. He read stories of wisdom, not conquest. He prayed in silence to the light, and the light listened. Anduin could feel it even as a child, warm and soft, like morning sun upon your face. It hummed in his blood, glowed at his fingertips, and wrapped him in gentle comfort. He did not seek to destroy, but to heal. This troubled his father, for Varian had known war and feared weakness in the face of a world so cruel. Yet even he could not deny the strength in his son's quiet kindness. The boy who asked questions, the boy who forgave. Anduin grew up under many shadows, his father's burden, the loss of his mother, the heavy robes of duty. When Varian disappeared, Anduin was made king in name, though still a child. Advisors whispered for him. Veterans stood in his place, but always the light stood with him. He traveled far, to Ironforge, to Pandaria, to places filled with ancient wisdom. There he met beings older than empires, learned the language of the soul, and came to see the great truth of the world, that peace is not the absence of struggle, but the presence of understanding. Anduin became more than a prince. He became a priest of the light, a diplomat, a bridge between people who saw only war. He believed, truly believed, that peace could be forged through compassion. And yet, the world was not ready. When the Burning Legion returned, it took his father from him. Varian died in fire and fury upon the broken shore, leaving Anduin a true king at last. He wept, but he stood tall. And on that day, with trembling hands, he lifted his father's sword, Shalamain. It was heavy with memory and steel, but the light sang through it just as it sang through him. He led the alliance with heart. And when Sylvanus burned Teldrassil, when war rose again like a terrible tide, Anduin did not give in to hatred. He grieved. He listened. He searched for paths unseen. Even when war screamed for blood, he asked instead for peace. But peace has a cost. In the Shadowlands he was taken, his body, his will, by the jailer. And for a time, Anduin became a pawn, a vessel for domination. The light dimmed within him, but it was never lost. For even in chains, even when wielding a darkened sword against his will, Anduin fought back. He found strength not in rage, but in memory, in hope, in friendship, in the quiet knowledge that his heart, no matter how wounded, still belonged to the light. And when he was freed, he did not return to his throne. He stepped away, to heal, to wander, to understand not just the pain of others, but his own. Now, the throne of Stormwind sits empty, but the city still whispers of him, the boy who became a king and then became something more. Anduin Rin, the light of the lion, he walks unseen paths now, somewhere beyond war, seeking truths only silence can teach. And when you kneel in a quiet place, when you close your eyes and ask for peace, you might feel warmth in your chest and know that he is still listening. Long ago, in a time before the Sundering, there were twin brothers born under starlight in the ancient land of Kalimdor. One walked the path of peace, the other the path of power. One became the first druid, the other became legend. His name was Illidan. He was proud, brilliant, and fierce, a night elf who burned with ambition, a sorcerer whose golden eyes shone with more than just magic. From the beginning, Illidan wanted more than tradition, more than duty. He wanted mastery over fate, and he longed for the one thing he could never truly have, Tyrande Whisperwind. When the Burning Legion first invaded, Illidan fought valiantly, but not for honor alone. He sought a power great enough to end the Legion forever, and in doing so, he made a terrible choice. He consumed the energy of the Well of Eternity. He accepted demonic magic into himself. He was changed, his eyes forever glowing, his soul forever questioned. They called him betrayer, but Illidan believed his path was righteous. After the Sundering, he was imprisoned for 10,000 years, buried beneath the earth by those who feared him, including his own brother, Malfurion. And still he waited. When the Legion returned, the world once more called on Illidan's strength. Freed from his prison, he battled demons with fury unmatched. He seized the skull of Gul'dan, absorbing its fell power, transforming further. Horns, wings, fire, no longer just night elf, something more, something terrible, something necessary. He fought Arthas at the gates of Icecrown and lost. He fled to Outland, the shattered world beyond the dark portal, and there he carved out a kingdom of chaos. To some he was a tyrant, to others a savior. He waged war against the Legion from within, building an army of broken, banished, and bound. And he trained demon hunters, warriors who, like him, gave up their souls to fight the Legion on its own terms. Then came his fall. Heroes from Azeroth stormed his fortress, believing he had lost his way. Illidan died, not cursing them, but smiling. For death, to him, was only delay. Years passed. The Legion returned once more, stronger than ever, and so too did Illidan, not reborn but awakened. Guided by the Naru, his body reclaimed, his spirit unyielding, and this time he stood not as a fugitive or a villain, but as a weapon of final judgment. He shattered the Legion's plans. He hunted Kil'jaeden. He defied fate itself. And when the final battle came, Illidan faced Sargeras, the Dark Titan, not with fear, but resolve. And when the world was saved, and the Pantheon called for a jailer to guard the broken god, Illidan chose to remain, not as a martyr, but as a warden. Even now he watches from beyond the stars, holding Sargeras in chains, his soul forged in sacrifice, his fury endless. They still call him betrayer. But time has shown another name, Illidan Stormrage, the flame unending. The one who saw the enemy clearest, the one who gave everything for a war that never ends. And when you look to the night sky and see a comet's trail burn bright and fierce, remember, it is not always the calm stars that protect us. Sometimes it is fire. Long ago, before the first war drums thundered across Azeroth, there was a world called Draenor. It was a place of wide skies and red earth, where orc clans lived by strength, by hunt, and by the wisdom of their shaman. And among them there lived a small, weak outcast, Gul'dan. He was born twisted and frail. Other orcs mocked him, shunned him. His clan cast him out into the wilderness to die. Alone, broken, and filled with hatred, Gul'dan cried out, not for mercy but for vengeance. And something answered, whispers on the wind, power that licked at his soul like fire. The Legion had found him, Kil'jaeden, the deceiver. He offered Gul'dan a gift, magic beyond imagining. Not the gentle wisdom of the elements, but fell power, chaotic, consuming, endless. Gul'dan accepted, gladly. He became the first warlock, the first orc to wield the green fires of Fel. His eyes burned, his body twisted further, but his spirit, it soared. He returned to the orcish clans not as a beggar, but a prophet. He spoke of power, of conquest, of unity under one banner, the Horde. He promised strength to those who drank the blood of the demon Manaroth, and they did. Gul'dan created an army. Green-skinned, blazing with fury, the orcs became the Legion's perfect weapon. He shattered the traditions of shamanism. He enslaved the elemental spirits. He built the Shadow Council, a cabal of warlocks who pulled strings from the shadows. But Gul'dan was never loyal. He was never satisfied. He opened the dark portal and led the Horde into Azeroth, promising them victory. But all the while he searched for his true prize, power eternal. The tomb of Sargeras, hidden in the deeps of the Broken Isles, called to him. He betrayed the Horde, left them to die during the Second War. He gathered his followers and sailed away. He entered the tomb, and there, in the dark, he met the truth. The Legion had used him. The spirits he sought to command devoured him instead. His body was torn apart by the very energies he thought he mastered. His bones were left to rot in the tomb he had coveted. But that was not the end. In an alternate Draenor, one untouched by Manaroth's blood, another Gul'dan rose. This one too was broken, cruel, ambitious. And when the Legion came knocking, this Gul'dan bowed, just as swiftly. He became their instrument once more. He paved the way for the Legion's return to Azeroth. He brought down mighty heroes, and again, he sought the power of the Tomb of Sargeras. For Gul'dan, no matter the world, no matter the age, always walked the same path, a path lit by green fire, and ended in ruin. He remains a caution whispered among orcs, a name that tastes like ash, the one who traded soul and people for power. Gul'dan, the first warlock. He sought to conquer fate, but was always fated to fall. And if you listen in the silence near the fell-scarred cliffs, you may still hear his laugh, mocking, bitter, and hollow. Once Bolvar Fordragon was a knight of Stormwind, a steadfast champion and trusted advisor to King Varian Rin. His armor shone like the dawn, and his heart was steady, unyielding. He fought in many battles, from the plains of Lordaeron to the icy wastes of Northrend, always standing tall amidst the chaos. When the Lich King rose, a dreadful force of death and darkness, heroes from across Azeroth banded together to stop him. Bolvar was among them. In the final battle atop Icecrown Citadel, Bolvar faced the monstrous Arthas Menethil, the prince who had fallen and become the Lich King himself. Arthas was defeated, but the evil within the helm still cried out. To prevent the scourge from running wild, Bolvar took the cursed helm. He became the new Lich King, but Bolvar was unlike Arthas. Though bound by frost and shadow, he remained a flame, a silent, burning light in the dark. He watched over the scourge with an iron will, holding back the endless tide of undeath. Though feared by many, he was a protector. The silent flame. He bore his curse alone, in a frozen prison of his own making, guarding Azeroth from horrors beyond imagining. And in the quiet cold, if you listen close on a winter's night, you may feel a faint warmth, a small ember glowing beneath the ice. That is Bolvar Fordragon, still watching, still guarding. She went to lift the several Polgragonas of his Arthas, and this works was so cued, soon place in the Ducariot. Until she led her people then countless trials, the coming of the Burning Legion, the fall of their homeworld, the destruction of the World Tree, her heart has known love and loss alike, especially for Illidan Stormrage, her twin flame and the first druid. Tyranda's courage is quiet but unyielding. She stands between her people and the shadows, always watching, always waiting. And in the stillness of night, when the stars hang low and the world feels soft beneath your eyelids, you might hear her whisper carried on the breeze, a lullaby of hope, of protection. High in the frost-bitten peaks of Dunmorrow, where the wind howls and the snow blankets the world in white silence, lives a dwarf with a heart as steady as stone. His name is Muradin Bronzebeard. He is a warrior, a brother, and a friend, a soul tempered by hardship and softened by laughter. Muradin's tale is one of loyalty and sacrifice. Long ago, he ventured into the frozen north, searching for his lost brother, King Magni Bronzebeard. There he faced trials that would have broken a lesser man, but Muradin's spirit was as unyielding as the mountains themselves. Though he was thought lost in the icy wastes, Muradin returned, scarred but alive, his beard dusted with frost. He became a mentor to heroes, a bearer of wisdom wrapped in gruff humor. In the quiet moments beside a crackling hearth, his stories drift like smoke. Tales of friendship, bravery, and the unspoken bonds that hold families and kingdoms together. And when you sit by a warm fire, wrapped in a blanket on a cold night, you can almost hear Muradin's steady voice telling you to be strong, to be kind, and to remember that even in the coldest winters, spring always comes. In the grand halls of Dalaran, where magic hums softly in the air like the gentle sigh of a breeze through enchanted leaves, there is a story not just of a person, but of a sword. The sword's name is Aluneth. More than just steel and spellfire, Aluneth is a living legacy, an ancient artifact forged in the fire of history, carrying the whispers of every mage who has ever wielded it. The sword is passed from hand to hand, heroes and scholars alike. Each left their mark on its blade, every enchantment a delicate thread woven into the tapestry of time. Aluneth holds secrets, arcane songs that sing softly in the quiet moments, lullabies of magic and mystery. And sometimes, when the stars glow especially bright, the sword seems to hum with a voice all its own, a gentle, soothing melody that tells of distant worlds and forgotten dreams. If you find yourself holding a book of spells or gazing at the night sky, imagine Alaneth there, resting quietly in a mage's hand, a calm guardian of knowledge and wonder. Close your eyes and imagine a place bathed in golden sunlight, where the grass waves softly like a sea of emerald beneath a sky so blue it feels like a dream. This is Elwyn Forest, the heartland of the Alliance. Here, the air smells of fresh pine and wildflowers. Birds sing songs that drift lazily on the breeze. Tiny streams chuckle over smooth stones, their waters cool and clear. In the quiet corners of this forest, children play among wild deer, and farmers tend their fields with gentle care. The mighty oaks stand tall and silent, ancient guardians watching over all beneath their branches. Even when storms roll across the horizon, the forest holds a calm promise that after rain, the sun will always return. So if ever your mind feels restless, remember Elwyn's soft embrace. Imagine walking slowly along its shaded paths, feeling the earth warm beneath your feet, hearing only the whisper of leaves, and breathe. Far to the south, where the ocean stretches wide and the sun kisses the sky with hues of orange and pink, lie the shores of Zandalar. Here, the air is thick with the scent of salt and jasmine, and the waves lap gently against sandy beaches like a soothing lullaby. The towering palms sway in time with the ocean's rhythm, casting cool shadows on the soft sands below. The trolls of Zandalar move with grace and wisdom, honoring the spirits of the land and sea. At night, the stars shimmer brighter here, reflected in the calm waters, as if the heavens themselves have come down to rest. In these quiet moments, the world feels whole and peaceful, a perfect place to dream. So imagine yourself there, wrapped in a gentle breeze, the soft roar of waves singing you into rest. Now, picture vast open plains stretching beneath a sky that seems endless, where grasses sway like gentle waves and the scent of earth and rain lingers sweet. This is Mulgore, home of the Tauren. Here the land moves in slow, steady rhythms, heartbeats of the earth itself. The tall stone totems stand like old friends, telling stories carved by wind and time. Buffalo roam freely, their footsteps a quiet drum on the soft ground. In the evenings, firelight dances in the eyes of elders, telling stories to the young, weaving lessons of honor, balance, and respect for all living things. Mulgore is a place of peace and connection, a land where spirit and nature walk hand in hand. And as you breathe in its calm, you feel yourself rooted, steady and sure, like the ancient earth beneath your feet. In the forests of Ashenvale, where the trees reach high and the air hums with the scent of pine and earth, there lives a creature of legend and beauty, the hippogriff. Part eagle, part horse, the hippogriff moves with a quiet majesty, wings folding softly against its sides as it glides through If you close your eyes and breathe slowly, you can feel this magic too. A soft glow in your chest, a calm warmth spreading through you. A gentle reminder that even in the darkest nights, there is light. Even in silence, there is song. And finally, let us rest beneath the boughs of Teldrassil, where the night elves dream deeply beneath the watchful eyes of Elune. The dreaming is a place between worlds, a shimmering veil where spirits and memories drift like clouds. Here the ancestors of the night elves wander peacefully, their voices soft as the rustling leaves. When a night elf closes her eyes, she may journey into this dream, a realm of calm rivers and silvered skies. It is a place of healing where sorrow fades and hope blooms anew. And as you lay your own head down, imagine slipping into the dreaming. Floating gently on a quiet lake, stars reflected in the still water. Here the worries of the day melt away, replaced by the serene embrace of night and the promise of dawn. With that, our stories slow to a gentle hush, the soft closing of a book as your eyes grow heavy. May your dreams be as peaceful as Azeroth's quiet forests, as warm as its firesides, and as endless as the stars above. Sleep well, traveler.